Imagine you're standing in a high-security vault. The walls are 3 feet of reinforced steel. There are thermal sensors, vibration detectors, and armed guards. You feel safe. You think your value is protected. But what if I told you that the vault isn't really there to keep people out? It's there to keep you focused on the door while the floor is slowly being lowered into a furnace. That furnace? That's inflation. The slow, invisible burning of your money while you're distracted by the illusion of safety. Most people think inflation is just a technicality, a little decimal on some government spreadsheet. It isn't. Inflation is a quiet, systemic way of pulling the value right out of your life. It's like an invisible hand dipping into your pocket, not to steal your cash, but to steal the time you spent earning it. If you worked 40 hours to get $1,000 and then the system quietly erodes that $1,000 by 10%, they didn't just take $100, they took 4 hours of your life that you can never get back. The psychology of people who stay broke is actually kind of fascinating when you look at it from a systemic angle. They treat money like a scoreboard, a static number that defines their place in some tribe. But the elite? The 1%? They treat it like a living system. They know that if you don't understand the rules of the game, you're not really a player. You become the inventory. You're the liquidity that keeps the whole machine running. Today, we are moving past budgeting tips. We're doing a kind of forensic audit on the global economy. We're breaking down the 7 rules that protect the Stoic billionaires from the kinds of failures that are currently draining your bank account. Rule 1. Currency is a melting ice cube. The 1971 pivot. You've got to stop mixing up currency with wealth. This is the main mental circuit breaker for most people. Our brains are wired to hoard physical stuff. Our ancestors survived by stockpiling calories, wood, and grain. In 2026, that same survival instinct has been turned against us. To get why, you need to look at the dark economics of 1971. Before that year, money was tied to something real, gold. It had a kind of biological limit. You couldn't just wish more into existence. But once that anchor was cut, currency became an abstraction. It turned into a policy tool. Currency today is a medium of exchange that's designed to lose value over time. It's a hot potato. It's a melting ice cube in a desert. When you hold on to cash because it feels safe, your brain is falling for the hoarder's paradox. It thinks you're building a fortress, but the walls are made of sugar and it's starting to rain. Wealth, on the other hand, is an asset that keeps producing value regardless of what some central banker decides behind closed doors. Look at companies like Kodak or Nokia. They held massive amounts of cash, but they lost their real wealth because they didn't own the future of the system. The system wants you to save your currency. Why? Because your savings become the cheap capital that banks use to fund the growth of their own assets. You're literally paying for the privilege of letting them devalue your labor. To win, you have to stop being a collector of paper and start being an owner of the machinery. Rule 2. The biological circuit breaker and the soft saving trap. So why is this shift from saver to owner so hard to execute? Because of a basic biological mismatch. When the cost of living runs way ahead of your brain's ability to picture the future, part of you just shuts down. In clinical psychology, you see this with trauma patients. When the emotional load is too much, the brain stops processing long-term data and locks into immediate survival mode. We're seeing a macro version of this now with something I call soft saving. When a starter home in a halfway decent city costs 10 times the average annual salary, the human brain hits a system error. The gap between your reality and the so-called American dream is so huge that your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles long-term planning, basically gives up. It hands over control to the amygdala. Instead of fighting for a future that feels mathematically impossible, your brain redirects that energy into short-term dopamine hits. That's the soft saving trap. It's the $1,200 phone, the fancy skincare routine, the $7 latte every morning. This isn't just frivolous spending, it's more like a survival mechanism for a generation that feels like the game is already over. But here's the cold, dark economics truth. The system leans on this defeatism. If you stop chasing the big assets, land, equities, businesses, the prices stay low for the people who already own them. Your soft saving feeds their hard asset growth. You have to manually override this circuit breaker. You have to stop treating your bank account like a dopamine dispenser and start treating it like a munitions depot. Rule 3. Debt is the modern cartel, the Lehman parallel. In the old world, if someone wanted your labor, they needed chains and guards. In today's economy, they use interest rates and credit scores. There are two kinds of debt, and the system depends on you confusing them. There's productive debt, using leverage to buy assets that pay for themselves. This is how the 1% builds empires on other people's money. A real estate mogul, for example, uses a bank's capital to buy a building, then uses the tenant's rent to pay the bank. The mogul keeps the equity. That's the Stoic use of debt. Then there's consumer debt, which is basically a blood contract. When you use a credit card to buy a lifestyle you haven't earned yet, you're doing a time swap. You're trading your Tuesday mornings in 2029 for a pair of shoes today. That's not shopping, that's a kind of hostage situation. The bank owns your future time, and it charges you a 22% premium for the luxury of being its servant. Think back to the fall of Lehman Brothers in 2008. They weren't destroyed by a lack of money, they were destroyed by Rule 3. They had over-leveraged themselves on inventory assets that didn't actually generate real yield. When the tide went out, they realized they were the ones in chains. The Stoic way to see this is simple. If the debt doesn't buy an asset that pays the interest, you are the one being consumed. You're the fuel in someone else's engine. Rule 4. You are either the owner or the inventory. Rule 4 is the most direct. You are either the owner or the inventory. In a capitalist system, there isn't really a comfortable middle ground. Look around at everything in your immediate environment right now. Ask one question. Does this produce yield, or does it require maintenance? Most people are surrounded by maintenance assets. Their cars, their clothes, their subscriptions. These look like progress, but they're really liabilities in disguise. In dark economics terms, they're inventory items. You're just holding them for the system until they break down and you're forced to buy them again. The psychology of people who win involves a serious decoupling of identity from what they own. Think of a cartel boss. They don't care about owning the product, they want to own the route. They want to own the system of distribution. If you're still trading your limited biological time for a paycheck, you're in a race against a global machine that never sleeps, never eats, and never gets tired. You can't win that race through hard work alone. Hard work is for the inventory. Strategy is for the owners. You win by owning a piece of the machine, whether that's a slice of a company through a broad index fund or a piece of software that solves a problem while you're asleep. Rule 5. Decouple from the identity tribe. Rule 5 is a psychological warfare move. You must decouple your identity from your spending. We live in an identity-based economy. Corporations spend billions on biological profiling. They know exactly which tribe you want to belong to. Maybe it's the hustle culture tribe, the premium gym membership, the luxury watch, the 5 a.m. grind. Or maybe it's the intellectual tribe, the $150 moleskin journals, the artisan coffee, the curated bookshelf. You're not really buying a product, you're buying a signal. You're telling the world, I belong here, I'm safe, I'm successful. But the dark economics reality is that the tribe you're trying to join is usually broke and drowning in rule number 3. They're all faking the signal. To win the money game, you have to be okay with looking poor to people who are pretending to be rich. You have to be a stoic billionaire in spirit before you ever see that number in your bank account. That's what the Stoics called practicing poverty. If you can be genuinely fine with the basics, you become untouchable. You can't be manipulated by the identity tribe marketing machine. Once you stop caring about the signal, the noise of the economy fades. You can finally see assets for what they really are, tools for freedom, not trophies for status. Rule 6. Master the hidden tax, the hedonic treadmill. Inflation is the only tax you didn't vote for, but it's not the only way the system drains you. Rule 6 is about the hedonic treadmill, a biological failure where your baseline for enough keeps moving up. As your income climbs, the system pushes you to upgrade your identity signal. You get a raise, so you get a better car. You get a bonus, so you move into a bigger apartment. This is lifestyle creep, but in the Stoic economists' world, we call it systemic tethering. The system wants you locked into a high cost of living. Why? Because a person with a $5,000 monthly mortgage is someone who can't afford to say no to their boss. They can't afford to bet on a new business. They're easy to control. The Stoic economist understands that the real hidden tax isn't just inflation, it's the loss of autonomy. To beat rule number 6, you have to keep your biological baseline low while you grow your systemic yield. Every dollar between what you need to survive and what you actually earn is a dollar of freedom. Most people burn that freedom as soon as they get it. The 1% invests it. Rule 7. The exit strategy. Become the system. The final rule is the hardest to swallow. Stop complaining about the system and start becoming part of the machinery that profits from it. The economy doesn't have a moral compass. It doesn't care about your emotions, your sense of fairness, or your struggles. It's a cold, mathematical engine that only cares about flow. If prices are going up, rule number 7 says you should own the companies that are doing the raising. If rent is climbing, you should own the land where the rent is paid. This isn't about greed, it's about survival in a dark economy. Look at the most famous company failure documentaries. Why did Sears collapse while Amazon thrived? Because Amazon became the infrastructure of the system. It became the pipes. You are either the dam or you are the water being pushed through those pipes. The choice is really a psychological one. You can spend your life fighting the current, or you can build the infrastructure that directs the flow. The game is rigged, sure, but the rules are in public record. The only thing standing between you and the financial stoicism of the 1% is your willingness to see the machine for what it is. To realize that your biological failures are just open doors for the system to extract value, unless you decide to rewrite the code. The heist is still ongoing, the floor is still lowering, but now you can see the wires. Your first move isn't to work harder, it's to stop being inventory. In the next video, we'll break down the specific psychological triggers that the 1% use to stay disciplined when everyone else is panic buying. If you're ready to stop being the water and start being the dam, stay tuned.